Good morning, everyone. I just got through listening to a book by Elisabeth Elliot. It's called Suffering is Never for Nothing. And if you have ever had any suffering in your life, whether it be yourself or lost a loved one, which if you haven't yet, one day as you get older, you'll have suffering or you'll lose a loved one, your parents, usually first. Because I know I lost my mother 11 years ago and how hard that was on me. And I remember my preacher telling me anytime I start worrying, and it was after that, of course, because I'd worry about my sons and my husband, to pray, to keep praying, always pray instead of worry. And I do have a lot of anxiety. I can hear it in my voice in these videos, but a lot of it is just stress, just trying to do too much. But when my mother died, it was kind of she had a stroke, so that was sudden. But she was 82, and she went to the hospital. And then after about 2.5 weeks, she was doing pretty well. She was doing better and was getting ready to go to rehab. And the hospital made mistakes, and she didn't come out of it. And so when she passed away, you have to you can either sit and just be in your sorrow, which I was. I couldn't stop crying, but I wanted to do her. I knew her story when she was a little girl, so I really wanted to give her something. And so I just wrote out on white paper every other line, just all these thoughts for my preacher, my pastor, to read at her funeral, because they didn't have one at that moment at their church, but their elder spoke. But she used to go to where I go, and she always wanted our preacher to speak at her funeral, and I promised her I would get him to. So he did, and that was one last thing I could do for her. And then when I wrote her, but during that time it was difficult because my dad was 85, and we would have people just bringing food over, and I would be the one to have to be the host when you're grieving. And I'd make sure he got fed. We all went down. All the kids went down and went to the uh, funeral home and took care of that with him. But after that, she had relatives that came in on the day of her funeral at 11 o'clock in the morning. It was just a shock because they expected to eat before the funeral. And one of them was her sister, and she was older, in her 80s. And so as upset as I was, Daddy couldn't do it. I had to go over there and heat up all this food while I was grieving for my mother and be a hostess. And that's kind of what she was talking about when you're grieving, because Elisabeth Elliot lost two husbands. Her first husband was in her 20s. She'd been married 2.5 years, and he was martyred. He and four other men in the jungles of Ecuador, to the very people they went down there to try to bring to Christ. And later, she went back with her little girl, Valerie, and they did. Many of the same people that killed her husband became Christians. So that is really, truly remarkable. But years later, she remarried. She didn't think she ever would, but she remarried. And within 3.5 years, that husband got cancer and died. So before she passed away, about 10 years ago, I believe. I can't remember how. I get her mixed up with someone else. But I don't know if it was 10 years ago quite. But she remarried again, and they married. They stayed married for quite a while. But she died of dementia. But that's what she was talking about, the grieving. Because sometimes you just have to do the next thing to get you through. When you've got a lot of things to do in your home or just a list. I know I'm bad about thinking I could just do it all, but you just have to go down that list and make a priority and just do the next thing. But I thought that was that's what I had to do when my mother died. I don't know how I got through that. I don't know how women get through that, being a hostess for their loved ones, and being expected to do that. But now I'm caring for my father. He's 96 now, and I finally quit my job. I'm still working 2 more weeks, and it's just between home and daddy and church and other things I really would like to do that I've always wanted to do. I want to get my priorities straight and then maybe have time for the others. But anyway, that's what I wanted to tell you. But she said something about Fanny Crosby, and I'm going to do that in the next video because I don't want you to get bored and end it. I hope you have a blessed day. Bye bye. And the book review for The Suffering is Never for Nothing by Elisabeth Elliot. I definitely recommend. I was not impressed by the woman who read the book, so you might want to get it and read it yourself, or maybe try to find someone else that, sorry, I moved that. But it's a really good book. And if you have ever suffered in your life, like I said earlier, um, it will definitely help you, I believe, because she has went through a lot, and not so much her own. Well, she did have dementia the last 10 years of her life, and that's how she passed away, which is really hard to believe because she was such a studious woman, read a lot, wrote a lot, spoke a lot, and it's kind of a sad ending for someone who seemed to be such a really loyal Christian, really good Christian. But you know, God never said we would never suffer. As a matter of fact, it was just the opposite, that we would suffer for being a Christian, that we would be persecuted, and many have died. I just read about it the other day. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. 300 to 500 Christians were martyred over in, I'm trying to remember, it was an African nation. I don't believe it was Sudan, Ethiopia, or not, one of those places. I don't know if it was Ethiopia. I can't quite think of the name of it. Nigeria. It was not, I believe it was Nigeria. But anyway, some deep thinking. She writes a lot of deep thinking books, and that's what I really like. I don't really care for a lot of the new books come out with the new authors today. And that's that's what you'll get from me from this channel. And love reading about the heroes of the faith too. So I'm trying to do a few things on that. But anyway, I'm gonna try to put these two together and make one video. Wish me luck. God bless you and keep the faith.